Greetings, my friends. I am Dictor Van Doomcock, the future ruler of Earth, broadcasting from Section X Studios at the center of the Earth, and this is the Pop Culture Breakdown with Overlord DVD, a rundown of the top pop culture stories and rumors of the day. Today we bring you news from a source claiming Gina Carano is talking to Disney about returning to The Mandalorian. We have a report from our correspondent over at boundingintocomics.com regarding the latest idiocy from the Lucasfilm Story Group. We have a very curious Star Wars publicity poster that was recently released that is very revealing for what is not on it. And also, we have this. According to The Hollywood Reporter and Cosmic Book News, Kevin Feige is turned to a failed comic book experiment for the next Marvel TV show on Disney+, an atrocity called Ironheart. Years ago, Marvel Comics foreshadowed its own downfall into canon violation, virtue signaling, and utter irrelevance when it published Ironheart, a series so wretched it only survived for 12 issues. Now apparently, Feige is poised to recreate this triumph for Disney Plus as fans of Iron Man let out a collective groan of pure misery. As Kevin Feige puts it, quote, Ironheart will be a series for Disney Plus about genius inventor Riri Williams, who has the most advanced suit of armor since Iron Man's, said Feige. Dominique Thorne will play the title role. As we like to do, both Secret Invasion and Ironheart will tie directly to feature films, unquote. As Matt McGloin puts it in Cosmic Book News, quote, in the comics, Riri Williams is 15 years old who steals Iron Man technology and makes it her own. Tony Stark finds out about it and eventually lets her keep it, unquote. So this is essentially an SJW wet dream, where a 15-year-old girl of color, being the bestest ever, is a genius inventor, according to Feige. Only she doesn't invent the most advanced suit of armor since Iron Man's. She steals it. Shit, does stealing tech make you a genius inventor? Sign me up. I'm heading over to Radio Shack. And Tony Stark tracks her down and allows a 15-year-old girl to keep the most advanced armor in the world? A 15-year-old thief? Are these people sniffing glue or something? Playing catch with Geode and missing a lot and subsequently getting hit in the head with it? Because this garbage makes no sense at all. Can you imagine the danger, the legal liability of nothing else, of letting a kid drive around an Iron Man suit of armor? The kid can't even drive a car yet. But this is the well that Feige is dipping into, a failed comic book series that fans hated based on an idiotic premise that is getting put on Disney Plus because it signals the hell out of SJW virtue. Yet more evidence that Marvel is going full-blown, over-the-top, batshit woke with Phase 4 of what we are now calling, with ample justification, the MCU. In short, Marvel is headed for a fall, my friends. Do these people seriously think that Riri Williams is going to hold a candle to Tony Stark, Steve Rogers? Marvel didn't know how on the money they were when they made Endgame, because it really is the end of the MCU. If you're trying to stay optimistic about the future of Marvel, don't. Abandon hope, all ye who enter Disney Plus as far as Marvel is concerned. As The Hollywood Reporter put it, quote, she joins a Marvel Cinematic Universe that appears more poised than ever to tackle social issues following Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which under head writer Malcolm Spellman explored what it meant for a black man to become Captain America, unquote. Yeah, and we all know how well that went, don't we? The subplot about the abused black super soldier, Sam's whiny lecture about do better to all the cops and military figures at the end. At this point, you don't tune into superhero shows on Marvel for entertainment. You tune in to get lectured at, reminded of all the horrible things going on in the news that you came to Disney Plus to forget. Yeah, fat chance there. I don't know how many comic book fans tuned into Falcon and the Winter Soldier to watch social issues, but I have an upcoming report on how many tuned out to avoid watching social issues. And believe me, the numbers aren't good. As for Phase 4 of the MCU, I don't hold out much hope for Marvel anymore. But Star Wars is a different matter, as you're about to see. My Hollywood agents have been telling me for weeks now that Disney is in talks with Gina Carano about the possibility of returning to the role of Cara Dune in The Mandalorian and several other shows in the Favreauverse. I resisted saying anything about this largely because I had my doubts that anything would come of this. Disney certainly must have offended Gina with the alleged reason for her dismissal, namely so-called insensitivity to the Jewish people, which given the context of her tweet was an unfounded objection. Gina subsequently picked up a movie deal with Ben Shapiro, and I was just afraid Gina had moved on and would ultimately decide not to return. That said, I may have some very good news to bring you today. A source has come forward claiming that Gina is talking to Disney about returning, and proof of these talks has already materialized. As reported in my last Pop Culture Breakdown episode, Disney officially uncanceled Gina Carano's episode of Running Wild with Bear Grylls on Nat Geo, a fact that Gina gleefully announced in a Twitter post. This got fans excited, no doubt, but there was more proof out there in the wild. Cara Dune toys are back. Fans have been tweeting out pictures of Cara Dune toys on the shelves of Walmart again. And so I ask you now, are these the actions of a company that rebukes and reviles Gina Carano as an ist and a foe? A company that so loathes her, they want to put as much distance between her and themselves as possible? If that were the case, if Disney felt as badly about Gina as they purported to in their press announcements around her firing, to the point where even her toys are pulled out of circulation, would we be seeing Disney embracing Gina Carano on two different fronts, both in terms of her character in The Mandalorian and Gina Carano personally on Running Wild? These two developments are earth-shaking for Star Wars fans, as well as fans of fair play everywhere. There can be no doubt that there has been movement in Disney's attitude toward Gina Carano, otherwise neither of these developments would have come about. As for Gina's attitude toward Disney, could she possibly agree to return? According to my source, all of this springs from the fact that Jon Favreau himself has put his neck on the line and has been using his influence behind the scenes to make this right again. With the Kennedy camp gunning for Gina and the subsequent confusion on Disney's part, believing what Kennedy's camp was putting out there in the media, Jon Favreau has been playing a game of 4D chess with the help of concerned investors to prove that Gina equals fans equals money. Jon knows getting Gina back needs to happen, not only because he wants her back and it's the right thing to do, because Gina was unfairly characterized to the point of slander by all this nonsense, but also because of the story Jon Favreau has planned. A big sprawling tale of galactic intrigue across a number of different series, all building toward what fans hope will be the ultimate erasure of the sequel trilogy. Jon Favreau gets it. He is on the side of fans. Fans want Cara Dune, and Jon wants Gina Carano. So it's looking good for the future of Star Wars if this rumor is valid. And now, more good news. A few days ago, Lucasfilm released a Star Wars poster in celebration of the upcoming so-called Star Wars Day on May the 4th. A poster featuring a wide number of Star Wars characters spanning the history of the franchise. And yet, something seems to be missing here, doesn't it? It's hard to be sure, but seems to me like something is off. To help me out here, let's go to our senior image analyst, Harvey Cthulhu. Harvey, can you tell me what's wrong with this picture?
Well, shit, Chet. Right off the bat and at a glance, I can tell you what's right about this picture. There's no amazing Wonder Ray in it. Despite being the bestest ever, they kinda sorta forgot about her and left her off of the poster. In fact, now that I mention it, they also kinda sorta forgot about Finn, and about Poe, and about Maze Canasta, and about Admiral Gender Studies too, and Rose Tico and Porgs.
In fact, Harvey, isn't it safe to say that they kinda sorta forgot about the sequel trilogy altogether?
It looks that way, oh future destroyer of Earth. But what could this mean? When Disney has spent the last 5 years building the Disney brand of Star Wars, spending billions to acquire and then promote their new characters? Hell, they banned Lucas's characters from Galaxy's Edge, so eager were they to promote their own flavor of Star Wars. Something between vanilla and unsalted cardboard. So what gives? How could Kathleen Kennedy allow her characters to be excluded and forgotten on Star Wars Day? Why, that can only happen over Kathleen Kennedy's... Oh dear.
That's right, Harvey. This one image says so much, doesn't it? Consider, my friends, is there any way in hell that Kennedy would allow such an image to represent the state of Star Wars on May the 4th if she were still in power? Look at this. None of her sequel trilogy characters are on the poster. The two largest elements of the poster are Luke Skywalker, a character Kennedy hates so much she specifically humiliated him in The Last Jedi, and Darth Vader, another legacy Lucas character and another straight white male to boot. The Emperor, Yoda, Leia, Han, all of these original Lucas characters are front and center. But Rey and Finn and Poe?
Cast off like one of Onan's used condoms. Who wears a condom to jerk off, you may ask? Disney, my friends. Disney.
Which perfectly describes the experience of watching the Disney sequel trilogy in theaters. You're watching someone having a good time, but you know it ain't you. My friends, this poster is yet more proof of what my channel has been reporting. Kennedy is, for all intents and purposes, out of Lucasfilm. That's the only explanation for the complete excision of all her characters from this celebration. It is also tacit confirmation of what I've maintained since day one. The Disney sequel trilogy is a failure, both financially and artistically. It's so bad now that Disney isn't even trying to push the sequel characters. We both know the sequels were a horrible failure.
And what about the High Republic? Isn't Avar the bestest ever? Apparently not. She didn't make the poster, did she?
No, but Ahsoka is on there. It looks like maybe the Bad Batch made it on there too, down towards the bottom. They're kind of small, I can't quite make them out. But again, these are in a sense all legacy characters, not characters created in the sequel trilogy. No, my friends, it appears that Kennedy is on the outs and the sequel trilogy has started the long goodbye of irrelevance on its way to the big sleep. Honestly, the exclusion of the sequel characters from this poster makes it very clear to me the sequel trilogy is going to be erased one way or another. And now this. And now we go to Pop Culture Breakdown roving reporter John Trent of boundingintocomics.com with a report on a developing story. John, can you hear me?
Yes, you're coming in clear. This is John Trent from the Bounding Into Comics news desk. Lucasfilm and Marvel Comics are once again desecrating the corpse that is Star Wars. In Darth Vader number 11, written by Greg Pak with art by Raphael Yanko, they depict Darth Vader challenging Emperor Palpatine for control of the Empire in Exegol of all places. While the fight is utterly absurd as two giant crab creatures face off against a giant squid kaiju, the real desecration comes when Vader enters into the depths of the temple on Exegol. It's here that Palpatine shows off his would-be Snoke clones and what he describes as the Scalpel of Creation. As for what the Scalpel of Creation is, it appears to be either Luke Skywalker's severed hand or the severed hand from Anakin Skywalker. That's right, Marvel Comics and Lucasfilm are insinuating that all of Palpatine's cloning program derives from the severed hand of either Anakin or Luke, meaning Snoke has Skywalker DNA in him. For full details, head over to boundingintocomics.com. I pass it back to you, the future ruler of the Earth. Stay angry.
Thank you, John. You know, someone needs to tell Hollywood that a clone is an exact genetic duplicate of someone. It's not kinda, sorta close. It doesn't vaguely resemble. It isn't somewhat reminiscent of. It's exact. And you tell me, do these two people look the same? I knew the Lucasfilm Story Group couldn't write. I just wasn't aware they couldn't see either. And that wraps up this edition of Pop Culture Breakdown with Overlord DVD. Join us next time for a rundown of the top pop culture news items of the day. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry. Ha 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 ha.